Hey guys, Matt here and welcome to the next Game Gengo vocabulary series, finally returning to Final Fantasy VIII. In this video we're going to go through a section of the game and break down all of the Japanese that we come across so that you can learn Japanese no matter what level you are, whether it's grammar or vocabulary, you learn everything, but this video has a focus on vocabulary as we go and collect as many as we can and try and go through the entire JLPT just through video games. So in this video we're going to be covering 277 words, with 123 of those being completely new. So you'll learn an absolute ton of language no matter whether this is your first time watching the series or whether you've been watching the entire time. All you have to do is watch every video in this playlist. You will now, after this video, have learned 40% of the N5, 36% of the N4, 28% of the N3, and 8% of both the N2 and the N1, with over 1,343 additional pieces of language. So without further ado, let's get into Final Fantasy VIII. Okay, so last episode we just finished defeating Ifrit, and now we're going to be moving on to the seed exam. So we're going to change our clothes to get ready for the exam, and here as Squall walks into his room we see this Seifuku ka, yappari ii ka, or kigaeru ka. So we need to change into our uniform as we were told in the previous episode. So here the first thing is seifuku. And this simply means uniform. So seifuku is a uniform, whether it's a school uniform or some sort of other uniform. Now here we can see that this word is an N1 piece of language, which is pretty surprising. And you can also have a look at some of the rankings. Now for this episode, I'm actually not using Kanshudo. I'm actually trying out a completely new dictionary that was recommended to me thanks to a person on the Game Gengo Discord, Shine. So thank you so much, Shine. A big love heart. Thank you so much for introducing this dictionary. It's really interesting and it's completely free, so if you have any problems with, Kanshudo having some sort of a subscription model, this one is completely free and it still has some usefulness rankings in terms of things like how often this word appears in anime, drama, news, or just simply Wikipedia, so it's a pretty cool resource. So I'll be checking it out in this video. If you want to check out the dictionary yourself, it's Lorenzi's Jisho. Lorenzi's dictionary. So here we can see seifuku for a uniform. Seifuku ka. This ka is kind of like a question. He's like, in my uniform, huh? It's kind of like that, huh, in English. Then, yappari ii ka. So, yappari is kind of like, after all, ii is good, and ka again is this kind of, huh. Like, it's kind of showing that he's not certain, it's kind of like, I guess, right? I guess, yappari, after all, ii, I'm good. So kind of, I guess I'm fine after all. That's showing that that's not going to be changing into the clothes. Or, kigaeru ka. Kigaeru is to change your clothes. Whenever you change your clothes in the morning or something, that's the word right here, kigaeru. The ki is for what you're wearing, kiru, and kaeru is to change, so kigaeru is to change what you're wearing. And again we have this ka, so I guess I'll change my clothes. So we can choose, I guess I'm alright, or I guess I'll change my clothes. Which is exactly what they say in the translation, uniform, ... Forget it or get changed. So they decided not to translate the ka part, which is a little bit unnatural. Uniform. That's a weird way of talking. He's just staring at the bed. Uniform. I think I prefer my uniform, huh? Kind of thing.
Skoru, skoru.
And so Quistis is calling out to us and she says, skoru, skoru. So skoru, if you already know, that's squall in English, skoru.
今から試験の班を発表します。あなたと組むのは、
Okay, now we have our first piece of dialogue. So Quistis, she says, 今から試験の班を発表します。あなたと組むのは、So, 今から, ima is now, kara is from, so from now, 今から, from now, shiken is the test. That's what this whole video is all about. We're going to be doing the seed shiken, the seed test. So, 今から, from now, shiken no han. This is an N1 piece of language to say kind of like a group or a squad. So, your group, shiken no han, your exam group, o 発表します. Now, 発表する is to announce something, and then the お particle is marking what is going to be announced. From now, the group for the test is going to be announced. 今から試験の班を発表します。And then the following part has our first piece of new language. あなたと組むのは、So あなた we know is you, と with you, and then 組む here is to join forces. To unite, to join, to link up. So we can see it has this kind of feeling of linking together, right? You could also use it just to cross your arms or cross your legs, right? You're kind of linking, joining them up. This is what this kumu has a feeling for. あなたと組む, so joining up with you, のは, so as for the person that is going to be joining up with you,
ゼルディン、賑やかな彼ね。
ゼルディン、賑やかな彼ね。So Zerudin is Zel-dinched in the English version. In Japanese, it's just Zel-din, Zerudin. And then ano, that. Nigiyaka is a word here to mean kind of lively, energetic. Nigiyaka na, so we're modifying the noun that comes after nigiyaka because it's a na adjective. Nigiyaka na kare. And here, kare, usually seen as kind of like he, him, or even a boyfriend, right? Kareshi. Here, kare is kind of being used as a replacement for a guy, like yatsu. So nigiyaka na kare means a nigiyaka guy, right? Someone who's very lively. So Zeldin, that pretty lively guy, huh? And as they say in the game translation, Zeldinched, quite a lively fellow. うるさいだけだ。メンバーは変えられないのか? うるさいだけだ。メンバーは変えられないのか? So Squall, he says, うるさいだけだ. うるさい, as we can see, means noisy, loud, and annoying. This has many different ways of writing it. As you can see, sometimes it appears in kanji, sometimes not. Here, it's not. Just so you know, as far as this dictionary goes, when you see that green arrow, that means it's the common form. So you can probably ignore the rest, especially if you see red, probably something good to ignore, but the green, something you should probably keep your eye on. So for example, that urusai by itself in hiragana, very, very common. Sometimes you might see it in katakana, and actually the kanji, I have seen it, and I think we may even see it in this episode. So it is relatively common there with the green arrow. So, urusai dake da. Dake means only, and then da is stating is. So, he is only annoying. He's only loud. Memba wa, so member is a member, the member of the group. Wa, as for the member, kaerarenai no ka. So here, this is a new piece of language, kaeru. So a very useful piece of language here in the N4 to change something. So, as for the member, isn't it able to be changed? Kaerarenai. Kaerareru is the potential form of kaeru, to change, so to be able to change, and then it's in the nai form, so isn't it? Isn't it able to change the members? No ka is a question, so isn't it that I'm able to change the members?
それはダメ。
それはダメ. So, それは, それ means that, wa, as for that, and then dame is no good. Or as we can see in definition number 3, it's not allowed. So as for that, it's not allowed. As for that, it's no good. So that's not allowed. Or in the game translation, I'm afraid that's not possible.
ゼル、ゼルディン。
Zeru, Zerudin, Zel, Zeldin. Oh, お前と一緒か. Oh, お前と一緒か. So here we have Zell, the very lively fellow there with the thumbs up. Very memorable scene. I could never forget, the backflips and the thumbs up and the what is it called? The face tattoo from Mike Tyson. So, oh is like, hey. Omae is a way of saying you, a piece of familiar male language, but as you can see, it is often derogatory, so please don't use it to somebody. Please don't call someone omae. This is something you mostly see in games, in media and things like that. Omae to, with you, isho. So that's together, ka. Again, a question, kind of like a huh. So, oh, I'm together with you, huh? Omae. あのサイファーと仲が悪いんだろ? Omae, ano saifa to naka ga warui n daro? So, omae again, you. Ano means that, and then Saifa is a character that we saw in the previous episode. He's kind of the antagonist right now, so he's kind of the bad guy here in the story. That Saifa, ano Saifa to, so together with that Saifa, naka ga warui n daro? So naka ga warui, naka just by itself is some sort of relation or relationship, and then naka ga warui, so warui means bad, so naka is what is bad. So the relationship is what is bad. Naka ga warui. So this put together just means you don't get along with somebody very well. Naka ga warui or naka ga ii would be the opposite, that you do get along well. Here, naka ga warui n daro, so the nda, it is that kind of explanatory language, and then daro is the same as desho, right? So, hey, you don't get along well with that Saifa guy, right? 今朝も喧嘩してギタギタにやられたって? 今朝も喧嘩してギタギタにやられたって? So first we have kesa, and this is very simply the word for this morning. So this morning also, kesa mo kenka shite. Kenka suru is to fight. This is another new piece of language for the N3. Gita gita, another new piece of language here that we can see is pretty rare for anime and dramas here in the top 21,000, so a relatively rare piece of language. But this means to be completely beaten up really badly, completely destroyed. I personally have only seen this used in this instance, at least in my personal experience. This is the first time I probably saw this word. It was here in Final Fantasy VIII. I'm sure you may have seen it a lot if you read manga, shonen manga type thing. But personally, it's pretty rare. So gita gita ni yarareta. Another new piece of language here, to be defeated, to suffer damage. Here in the top 11k, and this is a little bit more common because this is just the passive form of yaru, to do. So kind of like you were done in, right? That kind of thing. So yaru, to do, yarareta, you were done in, right? That type of thing. So you were done in pretty bad. And then the te here is actually quoting something that perhaps he heard. So wasn't it that you got into a pretty bad fight with him recently and you were done in pretty badly? Or in the game translation, heard he whooped you pretty bad this morning. So that heard he is actually that te right there. So referencing something you already heard. Yeah, あれは喧嘩じゃない。トレーニングだ。あれは喧嘩じゃない。トレーニングだ。So あれは, as for that, kenka janai, so kenka we already know is fight. Janai means to not be. So as for that, it wasn't a fight. あれは喧嘩じゃない。トレーニングだ. This is a new piece of language here for the N2 level, and it's pretty obvious what it means. It's training, the katakana version. So, toreiningu, a pretty common word to do some training, to do some working out. So here he was saying that, look, that wasn't a fight, it was just training. そう思ってるのはお前だけじゃないのか? そう思ってるのはお前だけじゃないのか? So all of this language you would have already have known if you've seen every video in this playlist. So means that way. Omotteru, to be thinking, no wa, so as for the one that is thinking in that way, omae dake, only you, janai no ka, isn't it? So, isn't it only you that's thinking that way? Saifa no yatsu, iagarase shiteru dake da ze. Saifa no yatsu, iagarase shiteru dake da ze. So, saifa no yatsu, yatsu means guy, so that Saifa guy. Iagarase, this is a new word, I hear iagarase. This is for harassment. It's pretty common here, the top 6,000 for anime and drama, so this is relatively common. Iagarase is harassment. Iagarase shiteru means to be harassing. Dakeda, only, and then ze is kind of a masculine yo, right? So he's being very masculine and very emphatic in what he's saying, so that's Saifa guy. He's just harassing you, Or in the game translation, Saifa's just being a pain in the ass. お前が相手しなけりゃいいんだ。お前が相手しなけりゃいいんだ。So, お前が, you are the one that. Aite is kind of an opponent, a partner in something. And then shinakeria, this is actually shinakereba, the hypothetical form if one does not. So shinakeria is the contraction. If you don't, it's good. So kind of like saying you don't have to, right? If one doesn't do it, it's good, is the same as you don't have to. right? So, 相手しなけりゃいい means that you don't have to have him as your opponent. And then, んだ is explaining. So, お前が相手しなけりゃいいんだ means you don't have to have him as your opponent. And the same kind of concept is expressed here in English. All you have to do is ignore him, right? So you don't actually have to have him as your 相手, your opponent. お前には関係ない. And then kind of a common occurrence here in Final Fantasy VIII, Quistis says the words that Squall's about to say. It's almost like they're linked in some way. Squall says, お前には関係, and then Quistis finishes his sentence, 関係ない. So, お前には, so as for, with you, 関係 is like relations. 関係ない means it doesn't have any relation. It's not connected or concerned in any way. So, this has nothing to do with you, right? お前には関係ない. This has nothing to do with you. That's none of your business.
あのね.
Quistis interrupts with あのね, which is pretty simple. Hey. Ano is like and then ne, hey. So, hey. So she's trying to get attention.
そのサイファーなんだけど、あなたたちの班長よ。
そのサイファーなんだけど、あなたたちの班長よ. Oh, okay, so we got two new pieces of language here. そのサイファー, that cipher, なんだけど. So, なんだ, it is that, and then けど, however. So, it is about that cipher, however. そのサイファーなんだけど、あなたたちの班長よ. So, あなたたち, you guys, no, the possessive particle, and then hancho is the next new word that we have here, and this is the squad leader, the group leader. So we've already learned han to be like a squad or a group, and then this cho here is expressing the leader part, the squad leader, the group leader, hancho. A fun fact about this word, this is actually the origin of honcho. So if you've ever heard of in English the head honcho, that is actually Japanese. It is a kind of abbreviation of this word right here, hancho. So the squad leader, the group leader, the team leader, the head honcho, right? So this is actually that word. This is where that word comes from, the origin of that word. It's actually a Japanese word right here for hancho. But as we can see, it's relatively rare outside of anime and drama, with Wikipedia and the news having it over the top 10,000, almost close to the top 20,000. So about that cipher guy, he's your group leader, you know? Hancho? あいつが? Hancho? あいつが? So Hancho, group leader, あいつ, that guy, ga, is the one that is. So, that guy's our group leader? Or in English, say what?
変更はできないわよ。
変更はできないわよ. So another sentence that you should know everything if you've watched every video in this playlist. 変更は. 変更 is an N3 language to say to change, to adjust something. は, as for changing, できない. So できない to be unable to do. And then わよ is a feminine emphatic sentence ender. This is a very common feminine expression. So it can't be changed.
サイファーはいる?
サイファーはいる? So cipher, hey cipher. Cipherはいる? The いる here is to exist for animate objects or animate things, things that are living. So here saying, Cipher, are you here? Torimaki no Fujin to Raiji mo isho ka. Fuki-in seizoroi te wake da na. Oh, and we have a big difficult sentence right here with 5 new pieces of language. So let's have a look. Torimaki no Fujin to Raijin mo ishou ka? Fuki-in seizoroi te wake da na. So first up, torimaki. This is the word to kind of be a follower, as in here are the followers of Cipher, the people who always hang out with Cipher. This is torimaki. As we can see, it's a pretty rare word. I've probably only seen this here and maybe in like Naruto or something. It's pretty rare. Torimaki no Fujin. Fujin is actually pretty cool. This is the wind god in Japanese. It's actually a very old mythological creature form god, right? The wind god. Fujin is the name of this girl here. So she's known as the wind god. To Raijin. Raijin is the thunder god, or the god of thunder. So the other guy is called Raijin. So Fujin and Raijin are the two torimaki, the two followers of Cipher. So torimaki no Fujin to Raijin mo ishou ka. So the followers Fujin and Raijin are together, huh? Then we have a pretty tricky part right here. So, fuki-in seizoroi. So, fuki here is actually a pretty tricky word for public morals, or here discipline. In here is a group member, committee member, so the committee member of kind of the public morals or discipline. And then seizoroi means to be all assembled together. So here se is like a force, and then zoroi is to group together. So all of the committee members for the public decency have grouped together. And then we have te wake dana. So te wake is toiyu wake, which means that's how it is. It's kind of showing a reasoning or logic behind something. So I guess that's how it is. You know, all of the members of the Public Morals Committee are together, huh? And in the game translation, Fujin and Raijin tagging along as usual. Guess that makes up the whole disciplinary committee.
あなたが班長よ。頑張りなさいね。
Then Quistis says, あなたが班長よ。頑張りなさいね. So, あなたが, you are the one that is, hancho, you're the group leader. Gambari nasai, gambaru is to do one's best, and then nasai is a request or an order to do a certain action, so gambari nasai, please do your best. You're the group leader, do your best, or in the game translation, you're the squad leader, good luck to you. So gambaru is actually meaning to do one's best. However, you'll often see it translated as actually kind of good luck, right? Because you kind of say, to do your best and hopefully a good situation comes out in the future, right? So gambatte ne is kind of, doing your best, hoping for a good outcome. And that's why you'll often see it translated as good luck, because that's kind of how we express with good luck in English, right? We're hoping for a good outcome from your efforts. Hopefully the outcome is good for you. So good luck. Gambatte ne. Gambari nasai. Sensei. Sensei. So sensei here is teacher or instructor, as Quistis is an instructor, so that's probably the translation that we'll use. 俺は頑張れって言われるのが嫌いなんだよ。俺は頑張れって言われるのが嫌いなんだよ。So, 俺は, as for me, very masculine pronoun here. So, as for me, gambare, do your best. Te, so here's quoting gambare. So, saying gambare. Iwareru, to be said. So, to be told gambare. Gambare te iwareru no ga, the thing of being told, do your best. Kirai nandayo. And kirai means to hate. I hate being told to do my best. Or like in the game translation, I hate it when people wish me luck. その言葉は出来の悪い生徒に言ってやれ。その言葉は出来の悪い生徒に言ってやれ。So, その言葉, so as for that language, as for those words, 出来の悪い, so 出来 here is a new piece of language to mean someone's ability. We can see with a lot of the definitions, it has to do with some sort of quality, right? Workmanship, execution, finish, so the quality of doing something. Grades, results, or score, the quality of your results of your study. The quality of a crop, for example, right? So we can see here, deki no warui would be kind of a low quality or kind of a bad something. And here we have seito, this is a student. So deki no warui seito is kind of like the bad students, right? The students with, not much skill, not much good results. Then it's ni iteyare. So ni is to, iu is to say, and then iteyare. So the te yaru is kind of ordering, do this, right? Do it to the students who have low grades, as for that language. So, as for that kind of language, use it to students who are bad. Like in the game translation, save those words for a bad student that needs them, eh?
なるほど。
なるほど. I see. This is an N4 piece of language. Very, 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 very useful piece of language to say that you understand something. As you can see, the top 500. So everyone should definitely make sure to know this word. So, I see. なるほど.
Cypher, 頑張ってね.
Cypher, 頑張ってね. Oh, very, very cheeky. So he just said, say it to the students who, need it, who are bad, and she says it straight back to him. Cypher, 頑張ってね. Cypher, do your best. It's such a memorable scene, just kind of flipping it back on. Say that to the bad students. All right then, do your best, man.
「 Cypher, 頑張ってね.
Do your best, man. 」
「 Cypher, 頑張ってね. 」
Cypher, 頑張ってね. 」
「 Cypher, 頑張ってね.
Oi, Kistesu sensei o listo ni kuaero. Kistesu sensei o listo ni kuaero. So, Kistesu sensei, so quistus instructor, or so doing something to instruct a quistus. Risto is just the katakana word for a list, and then risto ni, so to the list, kuaero, which means to add. So add her to the list. So, add quistus to the list. Ano listo, nani ga kaite arunda? And then Squall thinks to himself, Ano listo, nani ga kaite arunda? So, ano, that, risto, list, so that list, nani ga, so what is, kaite aru. And somehow this is a new word. So even though we've covered so much already, kaku, one of the first words you ever learn in Japanese class, we're just coming across right now. So kaku is an N5 language to write. Kaite aru, te aru means that it exists in a certain state. So it is written down. Nani ga kaite aru means what is written down, right? So aru is to exist, right? So to be written. It is written and it's now existing in a state of having been written. Here is kaite aru. So nani ga kaite arunda? What's written down on that list?
さて、
Well then.
あなたたちは B 班です。担当の指導教官は私。
あなたたちは B 班です。担当の指導教官は私。So, あなたたちは B 班。あなたたちは, as for you guys, B 班, group B, des, to be. So she's speaking in a polite way. Then we have a lot of new language. So, 担当 is the person who is in charge of something. We've already seen this before. 担当の, so the one in charge. And then we have 指導教官. So, 指導 is a pretty useful word here in the N3. And this means to be guiding, to be leading something. And then kyokan is a pretty rare piece of language, and this is kind of the instructor, another word for instructor. So a shido kyokan would be like a guidance instructor. And then wa, so as for the guidance instructor that's in charge, is me. Wa watashi. So this is a really cool, interesting sentence to demonstrate how you can actually move parts around in a Japanese sentence to still have the same meaning. And here, normally in a textbook, you would learn this sentence as Watashi wa tantou no shidou kyokan. As for me, I'm the guidance instructor in charge. But here we can see that you can actually move those bits around. So, tantou no shidou kyokan wa, as for the teacher that's in charge of the guidance, is me. So, you guys are in Group B. I'm the instructor in charge of you all.
チームワークを大切にして試験を乗り切りましょう。
チームワークを大切にして試験を乗り切りましょう. So, チームワーク is just the katakana form of teamwork, an N1 piece of language apparently. Definitely not a very difficult piece of language, and this demonstrates that you don't necessarily need to wait to learn N1 language, because some really useful stuff will be in the N1. It's just that it's maybe not as common, or maybe someone just arbitrarily decided to put it in the N1. There's a lot of useful language on the whole spectrum of the JLPT. There is more useless language as you get to the higher levels, but definitely don't be too scared of N1 being a kind of scary number, because this just demonstrates this is pretty simple. I think anyone could understand this. So, チームワーク, so doing something to teamwork, and then we have 大切にする. So this is actually a new piece of language. Now, 大切 is something to be important to you, right? Not necessarily important in like value or anything, but important to you. 大切にする is to actually to make something be important to you, right? To cherish something. So, what are we cherishing? Here marked with the o particle, チームワークを大切にして. So, value or treasure or put a high value on teamwork. 試験を doing something to the shiken, 乗り切りましょう. And so this is another new piece of language, norikiru, and this means to kind of overcome. We can see that it's to weather a storm, rough seas, to ride across, but also, as we can see in the second definition, to weather, to get through, to overcome, to survive. So here, to get through the exam, shiken o norikiru, and then masho is just let's, right, the volitional form, but in polite speech. So, shiken o norikirimasho. Let's get through the exam by valuing teamwork. チームワークってのはな、俺に迷惑をかけないってことだ。 Then Cypher says, チームワークってのはな、俺に迷惑をかけないってことだ。So, teamwork tenoa. So, teamwork, we already know is teamwork. Tenoa is here defining something. So, as for teamwork, or what teamwork means is, and then the na is kind of like a ne. So, you know, what teamwork means is, ore ni, to me, meiwaku o kakenai. So, meiwaku o kakeru is a new piece of language here, and this is to cause trouble for someone. To get in someone's way, to inconvenience someone. So if you ever feel like you're kind of inconveniencing someone, that is actually meiwaku o kakeru. And so here, to not cause trouble, meiwaku o kakenai, and then te kotoda. This te kotoda is defining the first thing that he said, te no wa. So this is actually a kind of pair language when you're defining the meaning of something. So here he's saying, as for what teamwork means, teamwork te no wa, and then it means, ore ni meiwaku o kakenai te koto da. It means, don't cause any trouble for me. So, teamwork means getting out of my way. これは B 班のルールだから、忘れるんじゃねえ。いいな。これは B 班のルールだから、忘れるんじゃねえ。いいな。So, これは, as for this, B 班のルール, ruru is just a rule, so the rule of group B, だから, because it's a rule of group B, 忘れるんじゃねえ. So, 忘れる here is to forget something, a pretty useful piece of language, but it's the んじゃねえ here that actually says that kind of you shouldn't, you must not forget, right? So, don't be forgetting. 忘れるんじゃねえぞ, right? That kind of thing. Don't be forgetting. And then いいな is like, alright, so you hear me? That type of thing. So, this is the rule of Squad B, so don't be forgetting it, alright? .制服か。やっぱりいいか。着替えるか。
スコール、スコール。今から試験の班を発表します。あなたと組むのは、ゼルディン。賑やかな彼ね。
うるさいだけだ。メンバーは変えられないのか。
それはダメ。ゼルディン。
お前と一緒か。お前、サイファーと仲が悪いんだろ。今朝も喧嘩してギタギタにやられたって。いや、あれは喧嘩じゃない。トレーニングだ。そう思ってるのはお前だけじゃないのか。サイファーのやつ、嫌がらせしてるだけだぜ。お前が相手しなけりゃいいんだ。お前には関係ない。
そのサイファーなんだけど、あなたたちの班長よ。
班長？あいつが？
変更はできないわよ。サイファーはいる？
取り巻きの風神と雷神も一緒か。風紀委員勢揃いってわけだな。
あなたが班長よ。頑張りなさいね。
先生、俺は頑張れって言われるのが嫌いなんだよ。その言葉は出来の悪い生徒に言ってやれ。
なるほど。サイファー、頑張ってね。
おい、キステス先生をリストに加えろ。あのリスト、何が書いてあるんだ？
さて、あなたたちは B 班です。担当の指導教官は私。チームワークを大切にして試験を乗り切りましょう。
チームワークってのはな、俺に迷惑をかけないってことだ。これは B 班のルールだから忘れるんじゃねえ。いいな？全員揃いましたか? And then a voice in the distance says, 全員揃いましたか? So, 全員 is all people, 全 is all, in, as we already saw with committee member, is like a kind of individual, a person, a part of a group. So, 全員, every person, and then 揃いました is to have gathered together. We saw that with the 勢揃い, the kind of all of the forces grouping up together with the public decency committee, right? But here he's saying everyone, 揃いましたか? Has everybody come together? This is a pretty useful word at the end too. We can see that they're not using kanji, but sometimes you may actually see the kanji, and that's actually the common form here, as we see in the list with the green arrow. That kanji down there is often used when talking about kind of grouping up here. So, 揃いました, have you gathered together? 皆さん、お久しぶりです。学園長の指導です。Okay, so now on to the speech. So here, Headmaster Sid, he says, 皆さん、お久しぶりです。学園長の指導です。So, 皆さん is just a very common word to say everyone. Or 久しぶりです. 久しぶり is it's been a long time. And then お is a way of making it a little bit more polite. So, お久しぶりです. So we can see he's speaking in a very, very polite way. So everyone, it's been a long time. And then we have this first new piece of language, 学園長. So, 学園長の指導 is Headmaster Sid. So this gaku is kind of like for the school, the gakuen is kind of the school campus, and then the cho, again, we see again kind of being the leader of something, like we saw previously with hancho. Here, gakuencho is the leader of a school, the headmaster, or the principal. So, gakuencho no shido, shido is just his name, Sid, and then des to be. So, everyone, it's been a long time. I am Headmaster Sid. この試験には A 班から D 班まで総勢12名が参加しますが、この試験には A 班から D 班まで総勢12名が参加しますが、So この試験には we know this means as for in this exam. A 班から so A 班 is group A, から is from, so from group A, D 班まで so まで is until or up to, so up to group D, so from group A to group D, 総勢12名. 総勢 here means all members, so all members from group A to group B to group D, and then we have 12名. So, as we've actually already seen previously, me here is a counter for people. So, 12名 means 12 people. And this me is really kind of looking at like the number of people rather than just the actual people themselves, right? You could say 12人, which means 12 people, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and you're looking at the actual people themselves. Here, it's more like the number of people in the group. So here, 12名 is used. 12名が参加しますが, and 参加する just means to participate in, and then it's ga, so he's kind of finishing the sentence. He hasn't quite finished what he's saying. So, as for in this exam, from group A to group D, there will be 12 members participating in total. 君たちがこれから行く場所は本物の戦場であり、行われているのは当然本物の戦闘なのであります. Okay, and then we've got a pretty big one here. So, 君たちがこれから行く場所は本物の戦場であり、行われているのは当然本物の戦闘なのであります. So the first new word we have here is kimitachi, and this is pretty easy. Kimi is you, tachi is the plural. So you guys, kimitachi ga, so you guys are going to be doing something. Korekara, from now. Ikubasho, so ikubasho is the place that you're going, your destination. Wa, so as for that destination that you're going to. Honmono no senjo. So honmono means it's kind of authentic, the real thing. Hon here is for the realness, and mono is representing things. So the real thing, a authentic, a real senjo, and this means a battlefield. So the real battle. Der Adi, this is actually der Aru, very similar to des and da, but it's der Adi because it's in the middle of a sentence. The sentence hasn't yet finished. If he said honmono no senjo da, that would be the end of the sentence. So here, instead of da, we have der Adi. To be a real battlefield, and also, okonawareteiru no wa. So okonao here means to take place. This is kind of in regards to like events or things that are happening, the things that are taking place, right? Okonawareteiru no wa. So as for the thing that is taking place, tozen, of course, or naturally, honmono no sento. So centaur here is an N1 piece of language, but as you can see, it's quite common, right? You see the top 500, 1000, 1500. So even though it's a high level word, it is super common because this is the word for kind of like a battle, right? So centaur is a very common word for a battle. So this is definitely something worth learning, even though it's an N1. Honmono no sento nano de arimasu. And here we can see that this is kind of a long version of nano da. So nanda would be like the colloquial form, nanoda would be the kind of more normal way, or nanodes would be the more neutral way. But here we have nano de arimasu, which is a polite form of nano de aru. So this is the same thing as nanda, but it's just a more formal way of speaking. And as we can see, he's the principal, the headmaster of the school, so he's speaking in a very formal way. So the place you're going to from now is a real battlefield, and what will be taking place is of course a real battle. Sei to shi, shōri to haiboku, meiyō to kutsujoku, subete ga tonari-awase no sekai. Oh man, this line has stuck in my head forever. I don't know why, but I think maybe when I was studying Japanese, I had to learn all these words and it's always stuck with me. So we have sei to shi, shōri to haiboku, meiyō to kutsujoku, subete ga tonari-awase no sekai. So sei to shi, we know all of this language. Se is for life, and then shi is death. So life and death. Sei to shi. Then we have shōri to haiboku. So shōri is a new word here, and one piece of language to say the victory. So shōri to, so the victory, and haiboku, the defeat. Meiyō to kutsujoku. So meiyō we've already seen previously in a previous episode of the Vocab series, this meaning honor, and then kutsujoku is the opposite of honor, right? Disgrace. So meiyō to kutsujoku, honor and disgrace. Subete ga tori-awase no sekai. So subete is everything, so everything is what is going to be doing the following thing, and the following thing is tonari-awase, and this means to kind of join together, to come together, and tonari-awase no sekai is the world where all of this comes together. Subete ga tonari-awase no sekai. The world where it all comes together. So all of the things he mentioned previously, sei to shi, life and death, shōri to haiboku, victory and defeat, meiyō to kutsujoku, honor and disgrace. This is the world where it all comes together. Kimi tachi no hotondo ga mada shiranai sekai to iu wake desu ne. Kimi tachi no hotondo ga mada shiranai sekai to iu wake desu ne. So kimitachi, you guys, no hotondo, this is kind of like almost all of you guys, right? Something no hotondo is almost all of that thing. So almost all, just about all of you guys, kimitachi no hotondo ga, so all of you guys are doing something, mada, still, and then shiranai sekai. So shiranai means to not know, sekai we know is the world, so the world that you don't know. So here, see how we see this verb coming before a noun? Shiranai sekai. Well, this verb is now modifying the noun. It's describing what type of noun it is. It's a world that you don't know. Shiranai sekai toiyu wake. Now we know already that this means that this is kind of to be a certain way. It's showing logic and reasoning. So it is the case that this is a world that you guys, most of you, don't know. Desu ne, right? This is the first time where the script and the game translation completely is different from the Japanese. Here he just says this is a world that most of you don't know, which makes sense, right? They've never been to battle before. For some reason though, in the English translation he says there's only one way or the other. So this is referring to the previous sentence where he said life and death, victory and defeat. Each of these go hand in hand, another variation from the script. So this is a weird little translation here, not too sure about it really. I definitely think I like the Japanese script here a little bit more. どうです?おじけついた人はいませんか?どうです?おじけついた人はいませんか? So, どうです? Do is like how, and des to be. So, how is it, right? どうです?どうですか? How is it? And then, おじけついた人. This is actually the first time I ever came across this word in my personal Japanese language studies when I was playing Final Fantasy VIII. Here, ojiketsuku, here is to kind of be seized with fear. Just kind of really like chickening out, just like, whoa, way too freaking out, right? To be getting cold feet, that kind of thing, right? So, ojike tsuita. So this comes from ojiketsuku. Ojiketsuku is to be so scared that you're freezing out, you're chickening out. And then ojiketsuita, so you have chickened out, hito. So is there any people who have chickened out? Wa imasen ka? Now this is the same wa iru when we saw with Quistis asking Cypher if she's here. Cypher wa iru is Cypher here. Same thing, but here it's in the polite form. Wa imasen ka? So isn't there anyone who is now intimidated, quite scared? So how about it? Are there not any scared people here? Or in the game translation, how about it? Are you still up for it? 正シードは9名参加します。正シードは9名参加します。So this first part here, se, is a little bit tricky because when you have a look at the actual definitions, none of this really makes sense. Shido, seed, is the name of the organization, the seed, right? That's the military group for Balamb Garden. So se shido, this is kind of like an authentic seed, right? A true seed, an actual seed member. None of these definitions in the dictionary express this, however. I actually had to ask a Japanese person what their take on it was. This is quite a difficult piece of language, I would say. I've never seen it before used in this way, so you may never see it again. I certainly haven't, but that's how it's being used here. So, se siido wa, so as for the real seeds, the authentic seeds, the official seeds, and then we have kyume sankashimasu. So, hopefully you guys know what that means. Kyume, 9 people, and then sankashimasu is to participate. So, as for the real seed, the authentic seeds, there will be 9 of them participating. So here, this is where I kind of had the translation of 9 official seed members, rather than the game translation of just 9 seed members, which clearly the translator didn't want to even deal with that whole se thing. So like, nah, let's just say there's 9 seed members. But here, I think official seed members is probably a nice kind of feel to it. 君たちが全滅しても、彼らは確実に任務を果たしてくれるでしょう。君たちが全滅しても、彼らが確実に任務を果たしてくれるでしょう。So, 君たちが全滅しても. So, 君たちが, as for you guys, 全滅 means the complete and utter annihilation, right? Complete defeat. 全滅. しても means even if. So, even if you guys are completely annihilated, 彼らが, those guys will, 確実に, this means certainly. This is another new piece of language that we've learned for the first time here. So, certainly, 確実に任務を doing something to the mission. Ninmu here is a mission. 果たしてくれる. And hatasu is to just accomplish, to make something true, to make something be fulfilled. So they will accomplish, right? Hatasu. They will accomplish the ninmu. Ninmu o hatashite kureru. So the te kureru here is to do something for you, right? So the official seed, even if you guys die, they will fulfill the mission for you. Desho, right? I'm sure. まあ、その点だけは心配しなくていいです。まあ、その点だけは心配しなくていいです。So, まあ is like, well, so I guess, well, その点, その means that, and 点 is like a point, right? That point that you point at, that dot, that spot. So as for that point, as for that thing, as for that matter, その点だけは, so as for only that point, 心配しなくていい。So, 心配する is to worry about something, and here, 心配しなくていい means that it's okay even if you don't, right? しなくても, even if you don't do, いい, it's okay. So that means you don't have to. It's okay even if you don't. 心配しなくていいです. So, well, At least for that matter, you guys don't have to worry about it. 我らバラムガーデンが誇る精鋭傭兵部隊シード。我らバラムガーデンが誇る精鋭傭兵部隊シード。So, 我ら means us. Here referring to everyone at Balamb Garden. Everyone at the Balamb Garden. So, 我ら us at Balamb Garden が誇る. This is another word that's high level N1, but still really, really, really useful. We can see that it's in the top 2,000 for Wikipedia, 5,000 for anime and drama. Super useful word here. Hokoru is to be proud of something, right? Almost to boast about something, but to be proud of something. So, warera Balamb Garden ga hokoru. So, the thing that we at Balamb Garden are proud of. And then we have sei yohei butai. The one new piece of language we have here is sei, and this is for an elite. Here for an elite unit, but elite here, sei. Actually, the Ginyu force has also been referred to as an elite group, right? Sei. Yohei here is a mercenary. This is a super useful word if you ever play any kind of fantasy or any kind of old fantasy or really almost any video game, really. Yohei is the word for mercenary. Super, super useful word when you're playing video games. We can see that according to these usefulness lists, it's pretty rare. So this is interesting. So the anime, drama, and the news, incredibly rare. Wikipedia, a little bit more common, perhaps because mercenaries, they do exist in history. And I would say for video games, though, this would have to be like almost the top, like 5,000, top 4,000 for video games. This is going to be a super use, maybe even more than that, top 1,000. This is an incredibly common word in video games. It'd be really cool to be able to make an actual video game reference list for this. I wonder if it's possible. I would love to kind of get in contact with the guys at this dictionary and see, like, is it possible to be able to maybe somehow get a video game list going? Maybe I can use some of my resources that I have to try and see what words are common. That'd be super interesting. Anyway, yohei is a mercenary, and then butai here is a unit. This is kind of the squad, right? So the butai is whenever you have some sort of military squad. This word is super common in Metal Gear Solid. So some sort of unit, some squad. So the elite mercenary squad. Sei yohei butai. And this is all modifying seed. So seed, that is an elite mercenary squad. That we at Garden are proud of. So the elite mercenary force seed, which we at Balamb Garden are so proud of. 彼らを見習い、指示に従って試験を乗り切ってください. Okay, we've got a couple of new words here in this sentence. 彼らを見習い、指示に従って試験を乗り切ってください. So 彼らを見習い, 彼ら those guys, or doing something to those guys, and then 見習い, mi is to look, and then 習う is to learn. So to look and to learn, 見習う. Here 見習い is just the noun. So this is actually to learn through observation, to learn by watching, right? So 彼らを見習い means learn by watching them. 指示に従って Shiji is an instruction or an order, and then 従う is to obey. So obey their orders. 指示に従って. It's in the te form because he still hasn't finished the sentence. 試験を, so doing something to the exam, 乗り切ってください. And this word we've already seen today, norikiru, is to overcome. So please overcome this exam by learning from observing the seed and following their orders. 我こそはシードにふさわしいと存分にアピールするのです。我こそはシードにふさわしいと存分にアピールするのです。我こそ is I for sure, wa as for, seed にふさわしいと. So seed, ni to seed, fusawashi means appropriate or suitable. And then we have to, and this is actually defining what's about to come following. Zonbun ni, this is kind of like to your heart's content as much as you can. Apiru suru no desu. So apiru suru is kind of a weird Japanese word because it's to appeal. It's the katakana version of appeal. However, in this way, it's more used as kind of to showcase, to show off, to display, to pitch something good about yourself. This is a super common word in, for example, whenever you're like applying for a job or in Japanese business, apiru suru is kind of in this way, kind of showing off, showcasing something. So 存分にアピールするのです means that you should showcase to the fullest that you are appropriate for the seed. So here, in this sentence, the very beginning no ware koso wa, he's not actually talking about himself. He's actually talking about you. So here, ware koso wa shido ni fusawashii to zonbun ni apiiru suru no desu. This is almost like you could put a quotation mark around everything that comes before the to particle. I, for sure, am suitable to be a seed. To apiiru suru. That is what you need to show off. That, I for sure am suitable to be a seed. So you can see that the to particle is incredibly useful here to kind of define something, almost like quoting. So display as much as you can to show that you are worthy of being a seed. Sa, ikinasai. Sa, ikinasai. So you should know all of this language. Sa, well now. Ikinasai, iku is to go, nasai is like an order. So he's saying, well now, go. Sa, ikinasai. Zein soroimashita ka? Minasan, o isashiburi desu. 学園長の指導です。この試験には A 班から D 班まで総勢12名が参加しますが、君たちがこれから行く場所は本物の戦場であり、行われているのは当然本物の戦闘なのであります。生と死、勝利と敗北、名誉と屈辱、すべてが隣り合わせの世界。君たちのほとんどがまだ知らない世界というわけですね。どうです？おじけついた人はいませんか？正シードは9名参加します。君たちが全滅しても彼らは確実に任務を果たしてくれるでしょう。まあ、その点だけは心配しなくていいです。我らバラムガーデンが誇る精鋭傭兵部隊シード。彼らを見習い、指示に従って試験を乗り切ってください。我こそはシードにふさわしいと存分にアピールするのです。さあ、行きなさい。なあ、スコール、ガンブレード見せてくれよ。Okay, so now we're in the car and we're heading off to our mission. We're going to the boat so we can head off to our first exam here, the seed exam. So while we're driving in the car, we have a little bit of dialogue here in between the members with Cypher and Zell and Squall and stuff. It's a kind of interesting little scene. So first here, Zell's talking to Squall and he says, Na, Squall, ガンブレード見せてくれよ. So all of this language we already know. Na, hey, Squall, squall. Gunblade is just a gun blade, but then we have this word here, miseru. So misete kure, miseru is to show, and then te kure is to do for me. So show me your gun blade. And then the yo is like an exclamation mark at the end of the sentence. So, hey, Squall, show me your gun blade, won't you? いいじゃねえかよ。いいじゃねえかよ. So, いいじゃない is isn't it okay, right? It's kind of a way of being like, come on, like, it's fine, isn't it fine? Come on, いいじゃねえか, it's fine, right? So, いいじゃねえか is the same thing as いいじゃないか. It's exactly the same, it's just a casual contraction. So, come on, it's totally fine. な、ちょっとでいいから。な、ちょっとでいいから。So, na is like, come on, chotto de. Chotto is just a little bit, de is with. So, just with a little bit, いいから. I means it's good, kara is because. So come on, just a little bit will be fine. なあ、ちょっとでいいから. わかったよ. わかったよ. So here he's like, fine, I got it. わかった. Alright, whatever. Right? He's like, I get it. Hi, hi. Hi, hi. Yeah, yeah, whatever. お前はケチなやつ。そういうことでいいんだな。お前はケチなやつ。そういうことでいいんだな。So, お前は, as for you, ケチなやつ. ケチなやつ. So, kechi is a new word that we have here, actually the only new word in this sentence that we have. And this means to be kind of stingy, to be cheap, right? Zell just wants to see his sword. It wouldn't be a big deal just to show it, but he isn't showing his sword. He's being kechi. He's being a kechi na yatsu. He's being a stingy guy. Yatsu is another way of referring to a guy. So, お前はケチなやつ. You're a stingy guy. そういうことでいいんだな. So this is a weird sentence to translate that last little part. そういうことでいいんだな. Like it's okay to be like that. It's kind of a weird sentence because he's not really saying it's okay to be in that way. He's actually kind of being like, that's it, that's how you are, right? So you're a cheapskate, that's what you are. Or in the English translation, they don't even bother with that part. They just say, why are you being so selfish? Scrooge. I like that translation of the English one because this is a weird sentence to translate in Japanese. So I actually like how the English is being a little bit more creative here. Just that Scrooge. I still remember that playing as a kid, him calling him a Scrooge because I pictured like Scrooge the Duck, one of the DuckTales whenever I see Scrooge. So kind of stuck. なんとか言えよ。なあ、何を考えているんだ? And then a long silence, and finally he cracks and he says, なんとか言えよ。なあ、何を考えているんだ? So, なんとか means something, right? Something or other. Really just kind of anything. なんとか言え, you is to say, 言え is the imperative form. Say something, right? So he's telling him, say something. なんとか言えよ. Then he says, なあ, huh? Come on. 何を, so 何 is what? 何を考えてる. So 考える is to think about something. 考えてる to be thinking about something. So what are you thinking about? And then the nda is again this kind of, it is that. What is it that you're thinking about, right? 何を考えてるんだ? 別に. And then again we have Quistis and Squall. Quistis seems to have some sort of attachment to Squall here, always finishing his sentence. He says, Betsuni, and then Quistis repeats that. So Betsuni here is not a new word, but it is for this video. And this is a very, very, very trademark expression used by Squall and really a lot of characters in Japanese media who kind of want to show disinterest in something, right? Like, you know, hey, what's going on? You're like, whatever, right?
何か理由があるんじゃないの? 別に.
It's kind of Betsuni, right? This actually literally means nothing in particular, right? So nothing especially, right? Whereas in the English version, they actually translate this as whatever. So this is kind of Squall's trademark in English where he says whatever. Well, in the Japanese version, he says betsuni, so nothing in particular. Either way, it is expressing the same thing, that he has very little interest in the conversation, he's just like, whatever. However, here in this instance, they don't translate it as whatever, he just says nothing. Now Zell can't sit down for very long, so he's getting all itchy, so he starts shadowboxing inside the car, and Cypher's like, dude, come on, uzaindayo. So uzai here is actually the same thing as urusai, the word that we saw previously at the very beginning of this video to describe Zell. So urusai is like noisy and annoying, and that's exactly what uzai means. Uzai is the more colloquial, casual way of saying urusai. And we can even see it gets even more colloquial down at the bottom, uze, right? Same thing. So uzainda, it is that you are noisy or annoying. So come on, you're being annoying. Zaindayo. Chicken yaro. Oh, I love this line so much. And so I was like, what the hell? Cypher. chicken yaro. So chicken is chicken, new piece of language apparently. This is more referring to being a coward, right? A scaredy cat. And then yaro here is referring to kind of almost a bastard. So chicken yaro could be so many different ways of translating. You could look at it as a chicken bastard, a scaredy cat bastard, a cowardly bastard, a big wuss, or in the game translation, a chicken wuss. Or my translation, a chicken shit. Andato? Oh, this is a cool little sentence here because this is really tricky for a learner of Japanese. When they're trying to come across this sentence, I think a lot of people may get a little bit stumped because Zell says, Andato? And if you don't pick up, he's actually so angry that he hasn't said the na in nandato, right? So this often happens when you're like really angry, you just like drop the first little part. This shows emotion, right? That you don't have time to say the whole thing, you're just gonna cut it down, right? And that's what's happened here. So this andato is actually nandato. So what did you just say to me? So here, the nanda, what is it? And then to, we see that quoting particle again. This is saying like, what is it that you said? Nanda to, nanda to. Here, just andato. And then Cypher's like, this is kind of an evil bad guy way of laughing, right? It's kind of a... So in the game translation, Zell says, what did you call me? And literally he just says, what did you say?
いい加減にしなさい。
And so Christus has to butt in here quickly before it gets out of hand, and she says, いい加減にしなさい. So いい加減 is good moderation. Now, literally that's what it means, but actually how it's used is to behave, to be in good moderation, right? To collect yourself and actually act in good moderation. As in, to be reasonable, to behave. So, いい加減にしなさい is an order to say to cut it out, to behave. Sensei. And after another awkward silence, Squall finally says something, and he says to Quistis, Sensei, teacher. 今朝、保健室にいた女子は誰だ? 今朝、保健室にいた女子は誰だ? So first up we have kesa for this morning. So earlier on this morning, hokenshitsu, here is the school infirmary. So this isn't a new word because we saw it in episode 1, but this is the word for the school infirmary. So hokenshitsu. Hoken is like health, and then shitsu is room, so the health room. Hokenshitsu ni ita, so here again the iru to exist for a person, but here the past tense was there. So in the school infirmary, ni ita joshi, so joshi is a woman or a girl, so the girl that was in the school infirmary wa, so as for that girl, dareda, who was it? Who is it?
誰かいたの? 気づかなかったけど。
誰かいたの? 気づかなかったけど. So 誰か, somebody, ita, existed, no is a soft question. So, was someone there? 気づかなかった. So, kizuku here is a very useful word to notice something. Whenever you become aware of something, you're like, whoa, you noticed something? That is kizuku. But here, Quistis didn't notice, she wasn't aware, so she says, kitsuka nakata. I didn't notice. Kedo, however. So, was there someone there? I didn't notice.
何か問題あり?
何か問題あり? So nanika is like some sort of, some kind of, nani what, ka something, so some kind of, mondai is a problem, and then ari here is the same as aru, to exist, right? So nanika mondai ari is very similar to nanika mondai aru, do you have some sort of problem? Yeah, betsuni. Yeah, betsuni. So yeah, no, not really, betsuni, nothing in particular, so no, nothing in particular, yeah, betsuni. Nah, not really. Psycho da. Since Cypher starts laughing, he's like, Psycho da. So saiko means the greatest, the best. Here he's actually being sarcastic. So for anyone who thinks there's no sarcasm in Japanese, here is definitive proof there is, because he's saying this is just great, saiko da. But he doesn't really mean it. 俺のチームはチキン野郎と色気ついた兄ちゃんか。俺のチームはチキン野郎と色気ついた兄ちゃんか。So here is why he was being sarcastic, because he says 俺のチームは, so as for my team, チキン野郎, so the chicken shit, と, and then we have this final piece of new language here, 色気づいた. So 色気づく, in a way, reach puberty, to kind of become sexually aware, right? To be all of a sudden, you've just realized, my god, the opposite sex, or in sometimes the same sex, is attractive, right? There's a time in your life when you're not aware of attraction, right? And then all of a sudden it hits, like when you hit puberty, and you're like, whoa, I'm attracted to that person, right? Here, this is that word, right? So you often see this iro for color, right? But this often also has some adult connotations as well. So here it's to notice, kizuku, something about the adult theme. So iro ke tsuita ni-chan. Ni-chan is a word for just a guy, right? We saw this in Final Fantasy VII Remake when Aerith was talking to Cloud.
あ、怖いお兄さん、脅しに来るとか警戒してる?
Saying that, I don't have any scary ni-chans around. And this is just kind of like a young guy. Or also could be an older brother, so like a lad, right? So a guy, a chap, a lad, who's just become awakened and a chicken shit. So my team is a chicken shit and a guy who's become sexually aware. Or, in the translation, I have a chicken wuss and a guy who just reached puberty in my squad. So, thank you, Cypher, for proving that Japanese does actually have sarcasm. なあ、スコール、ガンブレード見せてくれよ。いいじゃねえかよ。な、ちょっとでいいから。わかったよ。はいはい。お前はケチなやつ。そういうことでいいんだな。なんとか言えよ。なあ、何を考えているんだ。別に。うざいんだよ。チキン野郎。あんだと？
いい加減にしなさい。
先生。今朝、保健室にいた女子は誰だ？
誰かいたの？気づかなかったけど、何か問題あり？
いや、別に。最高だ。俺のチームはチキン野郎と色気ついた兄ちゃんか。Okay, so now we have the final scene in this video, so we're heading off to the boats. We've gone through town, and we've now arrived finally at the boats that are going to be sending us off to our first mission. And we can actually kind of see in the distance there on that island, I believe that's actually Dollet, the place we're actually headed to. I never quite realized that, but just looking at it now, I think it probably is. But they're definitely the boats that we're about to get on, and man, the environment looks beautiful. So, first up, Squall notices the boats, so he says, あの船か. So ano, that. Fune means a boat, and then ka, we know, means a kind of like, huh. So, that boat, huh? Ano fune ka. もう後戻りはできないぜ. And then Cypher says to Squall, もう後戻りはできないぜ. So we have one new piece of language here. 後戻り. More means already, and then 後戻り means to go back. Ato is kind of like past in the back, and then modoru is to return, to go back. So literally going back, right? 後戻り, going back to where it was before. But more, so no longer, 後戻りはできない. できない, not to be able to do. And then ze, a masculine yo. So, look, there's no more turning back from now. One thing I'd just like to note here on the game translation, this tiny little thing. Literally, he just says there's no turning back now. I like how in the game translation he says ain't no turning back now. I feel like the translator took that ze, which is a little bit masculine and slangy, and then the translator put it here into the ain't, which there was no use of this in Japanese, right? A slang ain't. But it's just a nice way to kind of make the sentence feel a bit more casual while keeping the meaning completely the same. That's a really good job. お前もうビビってるのか? お前もビビってるのか? So, is like noticing something. Huh? お前も, you also, ビビってる. So here, bibiru is another word to be really scared, to be nervous. So we already saw ojiketsuku, right, to get cold feet. This is a little bit more of a common form here with bibiru, here in the top 4,000 in anime and drama. And this is pretty useful. I see this quite a lot. You know, if you ever see a kind of crying character or someone being too scared to do something, this is the word they often use, bibiru.
なんだお前、ビビってんのか?
So, bibitteru, so you're being scared, you're having cold feet, no ka. So, hey, are you also getting cold feet? おい、お前たちが最後だ。早く船に乗りなさい. And the garden staff in the back yells at us and says, おい、お前たちが最後だ。早く船に乗りなさい. So, oi, hey, calling out to someone. Omae tachi, you guys ga. So, you are the guys that are 最後だ, the very last. So, hey, you guys are the last. 早く, quickly, 船に, to the boat, 乗りなさい. So, noru is here to board, to ride. This is the same noru that you would use whenever you like board a bus or a train or something like that. So here, boarding the boat. 船に乗りなさい. And again, nasai is ordering. So, hey, come on, guys, 早く, quickly board the boat. 俺をがっかりさせないでくれ. 俺をがっかりさせないでくれ. So, oreo, doing something to me. And then we have this new piece of language. I'm actually quite surprised this is new. がっかりする. Here, がっかりさせる. がっかり means to disappoint, to let someone down. Super useful piece of language. So here he says, がっかりさせないでくれ. So, させる is to let or to make someone do an action. So here, let me be disappointed or make me disappointed. It's very clear it's make. So, させないで means don't, and then くれ is do for me. So, for me, don't disappoint me. So, don't disappoint me.
ほら、駆け足。
Then Quistis pops out. So, hey, we're not the last two. She's also late. She says, hora, kakeashi. So, hora is like, come on. And then kakeashi here is running fast, double time. Kakeru is to run here, and then ashi is your legs, right? So it's like running legs, literally. But this is just saying, come on, chop chop, right? Come on, get to it. Hora, kakeashi. A fairly rare expression here. The top 30,000 in anime and drama, and the top 15,000 in news. Pretty rare.
Yeah, kiss this.
Okay, now we're on the boat, and here we have a new character, Shu. So Shu, she says, Ya, Quistis. So, hey, Quistis. Ya is like, hey.
これが今回の B 班のメンバー。よろしくね、シュ。
And then Quistis replies with, これが今回の B 班のメンバー。よろしくね, Shu. So kore ga, so this is what is, konkai, this time, so this is a new word here, this time, no bihan no member. So the members of Group B for this time. Konkai no bihan no member. So these guys are this time's Group B. Yoroshiku ne, Shu. So yoroshiku is an interesting piece of language where if we look at it literally, it means take care of me or treat me well. What it's really implying is that you guys are going to have some sort of further relationship from here on and that you're wanting things to go well together. For this reason, it's often translated as kind of like a good to see you or some sort of nice greeting, because we don't really have an expression in English that we use in replace of yoroshiku. So this is a really tricky one to actually translate, and a lot of translators sometimes just don't even bother translating it at all, right, and just say how it would normally be said in English. But what's being actually expressed here is that, look, this is the members for this time, take care of them, right? So Shu's going to be doing something, and Quistis is showing appreciation that Shu's, doing some sort of action, and she hopes that everything's going to go well together, right? So kind of thank you for taking the time to do all this kind of thing. There's a lot of things packed into this yoroshiku. And so, as we can see in the game translation, they don't even bother mentioning the translation. They just say, well, these are the members of Squad B. Yoroshiku onegai shimasu. So Zell B's very formal, he says, Yoroshiku onegai shimasu. So this is a new language. This is just a longer form of yoroshiku. So, yoroshiku onegai shimasu. So the onegai shimasu is just kind of like a please. So please treat me well, or please let's get along together well. As we can see in the definition, I look forward to working with you. So this is getting a little bit more closer to what I was mentioning before, right? This kind of fact that there's going to be a relationship going further into the future from now, and please let that go well. And as we can see in the game translation, they just translate it to nice to meet you, because we don't really have an expression like that in English, where kind of a greeting would be what we would do, right? And say, hey, nice to see you, nice to meet you, that type of thing, right? It's a very similar thing that we do where we're trying to be nice because, we're going to be continuing our relationship and we want it to go well. Yoroshiku onegai shimasu. And then Squall does something really weird with his hand. He flips his hand so he has his hand in reverse. I don't know what's going on there. I think that's a bug. He's like this. He's like, Yoroshiku onegai shimasu. So he hesitantly says the same thing. Nice to meet you. Yoroshiku onegai shimasu. Pleased to meet you is how they decide to translate it in the game.
Cypher 何度目?
Now Cypher's sitting in the back, not showing any kind of appreciation or welcoming or anything, and Shu notices that, and so she directs her question to him and she says, Cypher, 何度目? So none is what? Or how many? And then dome is for the count of how many times. So how many times? 何度目? So ichiban me is like the first, niban me is the second. 何度目 is how many times? So how many times is it? How many times is it that you've done this exam? 俺は試験が好きなんだ. 俺は試験が好きなんだ. So 俺は, as for me, 試験 the exams, が好きなんだ. Ski is the adjective to say to like something. It's a tricky one. Sometimes people get confused, but ski is just an adjective. So as for tests, that is what is to my liking, right? That is what I'm fond of. That's what I like. So I like tests. That's pretty much what he's saying. Again, being sarcastic. Cypher doesn't really like tests. He's being sarcastic. So Cypher is definitive proof Japanese people can use sarcasm, because Cypher sure as hell does. So there we go. Proof. Oh, I just love these exams.
状況および任務の説明を始める.
Okay, we've got a couple of new pieces of language in this next sentence. Shu says, 状況および任務の説明を始める. So, 状況 is just the situation, the state of affairs, the circumstances that we are kind of about to go into, right? Remember, we're going into a honmono no sento, a real battle. So that's the kind of situation that she's talking to here with 状況. 状況 or yobi. This is a pretty high-level piece of language here in the N1, but we can see that it's very common in Wikipedia, so that's interesting. But this just means and. And this is a relatively formal way of speaking, so perhaps that's why it's so common in the Wikipedia, because perhaps that's what they use for and whenever they're explaining something, right? Here, Shu is explaining she's being a little bit militaristic in the way she's talking. So she says, Jokyo or yobi, the situation, as well as ninmu no setsume. Ninmu is the mission, and then setsume is the explanations. So the situation, as well as the explanations of the mission, o hajimeru, I will begin. So I will begin explaining the current situation and the mission.
着席
Chakuseki. So chakuseki here is a pretty high level language here, N1, and it says to take a seat. But she doesn't add any kind of des or anything, so she's being very much ordering, right? We can see just the way in which she's expressing herself, being very, very cut clean, strict, and quick. Take a seat, right? Chakuseki.
本件のクライアントはドール広告議会
Honken no client wa Doru kokoku gikai. So honken is this matter, this case, this current situation. It's a new piece of language, and it's a pretty useful word. Even though it is a little bit rare in the rankings, it is still useful. Hon for this, and then ken is a matter or subject. This matter, this case right now. No cliento, this just means a client, katakana Japanese. Wa, as for the client in this case, so the case that we're going to, right, the seed that we're going to go fight the enemy, Doru kokoku. So this is the dukedom of Dolet, in Japanese just Doru, so Dahl almost, instead of Dolet, but the dukedom here, kokoku. Now we actually saw this word in Triangle Strategy.
エスフロスト広告の間に新たな縁が結ばれようとしていた。
So it's interesting to see it again being used here in Final Fantasy. So it's a relatively useful word for Final Fantasy type fans. But Doru Kokoku, the Dahl dukedom, and then we have Gikai, and this is the parliament. So the parliamentary dukedom of Dahl. So the client in this case is the Dolet dukedom parliament.
シード派遣の要請があったのは18時間前だ
シード派遣の要請があったのは18時間前だ。So, hakken here is a super useful piece of language. Even though it's N1, it is super useful. Look, the top 500 news and the top 1.5 thousand Wikipedia just goes to prove N1 is still useful. Don't trust the JLPT to determine what you do need to know and not need to know. Hakken is kind of like a dispatch. So if you, for example, like work in a company and you're a employee that's like direct with that company, then you would be like a seishain or something, or a contract employee. But here, hakken is like a dispatch employee, right? So this is kind of you're being sent from another facility to go do something else. Well, that's exactly what's happening here. Seed is being dispatched from Balamb Garden to go help over here at Dolet. That's the word here, hakken. Super useful word right here. So the hakken no yosei, this is a request for the dispatchment of seed, ga atta no wa. So as for when that happened, 18 jikan mae. So 18 jikan is 18 hours, and then mae is previously or ago. So 18 hours ago. So as for when the seed dispatch was requested, that happened 18 hours ago.
ドール公国は72時間ほど前からガ軍の攻撃を受けている
Whoa, we have a big sentence here. Even though it's quite long, you know most of this language already, especially if you've watched every episode in the playlist. So here Shu says, ドール公国は72時間ほど前からガ軍の攻撃を受けている。So, Doru Kokoku, the dukedom of Dolet, wa, so as for that dukedom, 72 jikan, so that's 72 hours. And then hodo is actually the only new word we have here in this whole sentence. And this means about. So about 72 hours ago, mae kara, from about 72 hours ago, gagun. Now, this is a really tricky one when you're coming across this without having played the game in English first. You'd be like, what the hell is a gagun? It's so weird. But the ga is actually the Galbadia. So like the G army is how you could kind of look at it. Gun here representing the army or the forces. The G army, the Galbadian army. Gagun. That's here how it's being expressed. Gagun no kogeki, so the attack from the Galbadian army, o uketeiru. And ukeru is to receive. So they have been receiving attacks of the Galbadian army from about 72 hours ago.
開戦から49時間後、ドール公国は市街区域を放棄。
開戦から49時間後、ドール公国は市街区域を放棄。開戦 Kai is often to open something, but in this way it's more of to commence something. Kai sen here is representing battle. So the commencement of battle. Kai sen kara, from the commencement of battle, 49時間後. So 49時間, 49 hours, go is after. Doru kokoku, the Dahl dukedom wa, and then we have shigai kuiki. So these are both two new pieces of language. Shigai is the urban area. Shi actually means city, and then gai is like a town, often read as machi. So here, shigai is the town in a city, right? Shigai kuiki, so the ku is like a section, and then iki is a region. So the sectional region, here being a limits or a boundary or an area or a zone. So shigai kuiki is kind of the city-town zone, or hoki. And hoki is to completely abandon something. So just a ghost town, right? That type of thing. Completely surrendering, giving up, abandoning. So this is a very difficult piece of language, but still a useful one to learn. As you can see, it's used in a lot of media. So, 開戦から49時間後、ドール公国は市街区域を放棄。49 hours after the outbreak of war, the Dahlid Principality abandoned the city limits.
現在は周辺の山間部に退避し、部隊の再編を急いでいる。
現在は周辺の山間部に退避し、部隊の再編を急いでいる。So 現在は Genzai is a more formal way of saying ima. So ima, now, genzai, presently. So as for the present moment, as for right now, genzai wa shuhen, this is the vicinity, the area, the surroundings. No sankanbu, this is actually the first time and perhaps one of the only times I've seen this word, but this is, as we can see, the top 42,000 words in anime and drama, but this is for a mountainous region. So the sankan is kind of the mountainous area, and then bu is a part, right? So this mountainous region. Sankanbu actually also happens to be my favorite type of region in Japan. So the mountainous regions, if you give that a Google, you'll see a whole bunch of things that give me love heart eyes. I love the mountain area in Japan especially. So here, Sankanbu, the mountainous region, ni taihi shi. So taihi is to evacuate. And then where are we evacuating? The ni particle is expressing to the Sankanbu, to the mountainous regions. So presently, evacuating to the area around the mountainous regions, butai no saihen o isoideiru. Butai, as we know, is the squad or the unit. And then we have saihen. So this is another new word that we have, and this is the reorganization of something. This is a completely new word. We haven't seen this at all before, and it's relatively rare, especially in anime and manga. But sai just expresses doing something again. And hen actually comes from kind of organize something. This is actually the same hen that's used in henshu when you edit a video, right? That's henshu, to edit something. So sai hen is like to almost re-edit, right? To reorganize. Sai hen o isoideiru. And the sogu is just to hurry, to rush. So they are rushing to reorganize their forces in the mountain region in which they've evacuated to.
以上が現在の状況だ。
以上は現在の状況だ。So we actually know all of this language, so let's see if you guys know what this means. Ijo ga. Ijo can actually be a tricky piece of language. As we can see, Ijo actually has quite a few different definitions that can be very different in meaning. Right now, we're actually looking at definition number 3, the above mentioned, the aforementioned. So as for what we just said, as for what I just stated, Ijo ga genzai no jokyou da. So as for what I just said, that is the current situation. 現在の状況。
次に具体的な任務と作戦の説明に入る。
And then she continues on with 次に具体的な任務と作戦の説明に入る。So 次に this is next or after that. 具体的 is like a specific something. So in a way, she was just kind of giving a general overview of what's happening, but now she's going to be more specific. 具体的な任務, so the more specific mission that you guys have, to saksen, that's strategy. So a more specific mission and strategy no setsume, the explanation, ni hairu. And hairu is to enter. So we're going to be now next entering into more specific explanations of your mission and strategy.
報告によると、ガ軍は周辺山間部のドール軍排除作戦を展開中。
報告によると、ガ軍は周辺山間部のドール軍排除作戦を展開中。So, 報告 is like a report, something that she heard from other people. 報告によると, so according to those reports. So, によると is saying, as for according to that thing, as for according to the reports, 報告によると, ガ軍は, so as for the Galbadian army, 周辺山間部のドール軍. This is all modifying ドール軍, the Dolit army. And what Dolit army? The Dolit army that is in the mountainous region. 周辺山間部のドール軍. Then we have 排除作戦. So 排除 is the expulsion, the complete getting rid of something, the removal of something. 作戦 is the strategy, also known as a mission. So kind of the strategy or the mission to remove all of the Dolit army from the mountainous area, or tenkaichu. And this is kind of like tenkai is to develop, to expand, to currently be deploying that mission, that strategy. And then chu is in the middle of. So they're in the middle of doing that tenkai. So, according to reports, Galbadian forces are in the process of eliminating the Dolit army.
我々はルプタンビーチから上陸。
我々はルプタンビーチから上陸. So, 我々は, so as for us, Luputan Beachy. So, Luputan is like Lupton or Lupitan. Beachy is the beach. Kara is from, so from the Lupton beach. And then Joriku, this is to be disembarking, so to be landing. So, we will be making landfall, we will be landing at Lupitan beach.
市街地に残るガ軍を排除しつつ、速やかに市街地を開放する。
Ooh, a tricky sentence here. Okay, let's check this one out. 市街地に残るガ軍を排除しつつ、速やかに市街地を開放する。市街地 is just the area of the city. に残る is to leave behind. And then gagun is the Galbadian forces. So the Galbadian forces that have been left behind in the city, 市街地に残るガ軍を, so doing something to those forces, 排除しつつ. 排除する is to get rid of. しつつ, so she is suru, and then tsutsu is while. This is a very useful piece of grammar right here to show that while you do that action, so 排除しつつ, while getting rid of the Galbadian forces, 速やかに, so this means quickly, speedily, 速やかに市街地を開放する. So quickly do something to the shigaichi. And what are we doing? 開放する. Liberating, releasing, opening up. So, while getting rid of the Galbadian army that remains in the city, you are to liberate as soon as possible the city.
その後、我々シードは山間部から戻るであろうガ軍を市街地周辺部にて迎撃のため待機する。
Oh god, so many long sentences. Okay, we have 3 new words here in this sentence. その後、我々シードは山間部から戻るであろうガ軍の市街地周辺部にて迎撃のため待機する. So let's start all the way from the beginning. その後、その後. So after that, その that, 後 after. After that. 我々 we seed. So we seed は as for us. 山間部から from the mountainous region 戻るであろうガ軍. So this is actually all modifying the gagun, the Galbadian army that will probably return from the mountainous region. Modoru to return, dearo probably, and then gagun, the Galbadian army, or shigaichi shuhenbu ni te. So shigaichi, the city area, shuhen, the vicinity, bu, that portion, ni te. This is actually marking the place, and this is actually the old version of de, so this is very similar to de. So at the place of the city area, geigeki, this is a new piece of language completely, and this is to intercept, to counterattack. So geigeki no tame, for the sake of that counterattack, taiki suru. And taiki is to remain in wait. So to be waiting for an opportunity, right? Waiting for the opportunity of the geigeki, the counterattack. So after that, we Seed will stand by to intercept the Galbadian army returning from the mountainous area at the city perimeter. Oretachi wa nani o surunda? Oretachi wa nani o surunda? So oretachi, we, wa, as for us, nani o surunda, what are we going to do? What are we supposed to do?
君たちシード候補生には市街地に入り込んだガ軍を排除してもらう。
君たちシード候補生には市街地に入り込んだガ軍を排除してもらう。So 君たちシード候補生. So all of this is 君たちシード, you seeds, and then 候補生. This is for a cadet. Actually, this is kind of like someone who is a potential candidate for something. A potential candidate to be in seed, right? That is this 候補生. So this is rare, but useful if you see any kind of military show or anything like that. It's a pretty common word. Niwa, so as for to you guys, shigaichi ni, so into the city area. Hairi konda, this is kind of to have snuck into, to have infiltrated in. Gagun, so the Gagun that have infiltrated into the city area, or haijo shite morau. We will have you kill and remove the Galbadian army that has snuck into the city. The Seed is going to take care of the guys in the mountains, but we're going to take care of the guys that are left over in the city. Yosh, Sekinin Judai da. And then Zell's all pumped up. He says, Sekinin Judai da. So Sekinin is responsibility, something that you have to do, your responsibility, Sekinin. And then Judai is very important, a very serious, significant responsibility. Sekinin Judai da. So it's a big responsibility. Tanoshikunai na. Tanoshikunai na. So Cypher's not too happy with that. Tanoshi here means fun, but he says tanoshikunai. That means it's not fun. And then na is a little bit more of like a masculine ne. So he's like, doesn't sound very fun to me. Yosuru ni, shido no renshu no okobore chodai daro. Yosuru ni, shido no renshu no okobore chodai daro. So yosuru ni is a really useful expression here at the N3 to kind of say, in short, to summarize, right? So your here is to kind of summarize something, suru ni, saying, putting it into a summary. Yosuru ni, to make long story short. Seed no renshu, so this is kind of like those guys. So seed no renshu, those seed guys no okobore. This is a leftover. So the seed's leftovers, and then chodai is like to receive, like, hi, chodai, I'll receive this. So to say that you will receive the leftovers of the seed, daro, right? So he's not happy because he's like, what the hell? Like, so in other words, we're just going to be taking care of the leftovers?
Ah, 言うまでもないことだが。
She's a little bit silent after a while, and then she says, ah, yu mademo nai koto da ga. So ah is yes, you to say, and then we have this really cool expression, mademo nai. So I really like this expression because it means that something isn't worth doing, right? It's not significant enough for you to need to do something. It's an unnecessary thing to do. Yu mademo nai means that it's not needed to be said. Koto da ga. So this is something that doesn't need to be said, however. Yu mademo nai koto da ga.
撤退の命令は絶対だ。これは忘れるな。
撤退の命令は絶対だ。これは忘れるな。So 撤退 means withdrawal. 撤退の命令 is the order to withdraw. は絶対だ。絶対 is to be absolute. So definitely. It is da. All of a sudden, she's speaking in not formal speech or anything like that. She's speaking very short and clear using da. So she's stating very firmly, the order for withdrawal is absolute. これは忘れるな. So as for this, do not forget it.
まもなく上陸だ。
間もなく上陸だ. So mamonaku, this is something you hear a lot if you're ever in a train in Japan and you hear that you're almost arriving at the station. That's the word they use, mamonaku. So shortly, briefly, in a short time, jōriku da. So we're about to disembark. Now, something about mamonaku, just very quickly, is you can actually see that there is a kanji used, the ma mo naku. The ma here is aida, kind of like an interval or a space. So ma mo naku means there isn't even any space. So shortly, right? You can see kind of literally where it means shortly, without having any space, right? Very soon. Ma mo naku. So we'll be landing shortly.
下船直後から戦闘が予想される。準備を怠りなくだな。
Okay, a few new pieces of language in this next sentence. 下船直後から戦闘が予想される。準備を怠りなくだな。So, 下船, the ge here is for getting off, and then the sen is representing the fune, the boat. So, 下船, when you get off the boat, when you disembark, when you get off that ship. 直後 is immediately after. So as soon as you get off the ship, kara, from that time, sento ga, so as for battle, yoso sareru. And yoso suru is to kind of predict, to foresee something, to anticipate. So, sareru it is. It is anticipated that as soon as you get off the boat, there will be battle. So, junbi, preparation, okotari naku means to be very diligent in something. Don't fail in doing your junbi. Don't fail in preparing. So make sure to prepare because a battle is expected to happen as soon as you arrive.
以上だ。
Ijo-da. Now, this is really interesting because again we get to see this ijo. So we saw ijo. Shu actually used it just a couple of sentences ago to refer to the thing she previously said, the aforementioned thing. This time it's a completely different definition of the word. Can you guess which one? This ijo means that is it. So if you ever go to like a restaurant or if you're ordering something, you can use this word to actually say that's it. That's enough. Ijo da. So this is a really useful expression, or ijo des if you want to be polite. Very useful expression to just say that's it, right? So maybe you've given a list of everything you want when you're ordering at a restaurant, and then the final thing you just say, ijo des. That's it. And that's what Shu's saying right here. That's the end of the explanations.
何か質問のあるものはキスティスに聞くように。
何か質問のあるものはキスティスに聞くように。So 何か something. 質問 means a question. のあるもの. So a person who has 質問のあるものは as for someone who has any kind of questions. キスティスに so to キスティス聞くように。Kiku is to ask, and then yoni is in order too. So, if you have any questions, make sure to ask Quistis. Ika, yoku kikeo. Alright, now Cypher's taking his leader position. He's going to tell us what to do, and he says, Ika, yoku kikeo. So, Ika is like okay, or you see, or even listen. Yoku means well, and then kike is the imperative of kiku, to listen, so listen well. So kind of like, alright, listen up, that type of thing. 今回の作戦の目的は、ドールの町に潜入したガルベーディアのクソ野郎どもを片っ端からぶちのめすことだ。Oh, we got a big one here thanks to Cypher. Thanks, we've got 4 new words in this huge sentence. 今回の作戦の目的は、ドールの町に侵入したガルベーディアのクソ野郎どもを片っ端からぶちのめすことだ。So let's go all the way to the beginning. 今回の作戦。今回 means this time の作戦。This time's mission の目的は。So as for this goal. 目的 is like a goal, an aim, or an objective. So as for today's mission's objective, 今日の作戦の目的はドルの町に so into the town 町 of Dahl 侵入したガルベーディアのクソ野郎どもso 侵入する is to infiltrate, to invade into, and then Garubedia, finally we see the word for Galbadia. This has been referred to as just the ga, right? But here the ga is Garubedia, Galbadia. No, kusoyaro. This is a nice little bit of slang language. Thanks, Cypher, for teaching us all kinds of useful language. Kuso is shit. Yaro is bastards. So those shitty bastards, right? Those damn bastards. Domo, again, speaking down to someone. So really looking down on those Galbadian guys, those Kusoyaro Domo. Them's fighting words. Don't be using these language anytime soon. This is real scary stuff. So he's really talking down on the Galbadian people. And then he says, Katapashi kara. So katapashi kara, this is actually an adverb, and I would say this is pretty rare, but this means completely, like absolutely every single little bit from A to Z successfully, thoroughly buchinomesu. And buchinomesu is just to utterly beat up, to destroy, to knock down so badly that they can't recover. Now, you may actually sometimes see this as uchinomesu, but we can see very clearly he's speaking here with buchinomesu, so this might be a little bit more of an emotional way of saying uchinomesu, buchinomesu, right? And then koto da is saying it is that you should, right? He's giving an order. So, alright, as for today's objective, you are to completely destroy absolutely all of those bastard Galbanians who have snuck into the Dahl city. お前たちは班長である俺の命令にだけ従っておけばいいんだ. Oh wow, congratulations! All of this, we now know all of the language in this sentence, so let's have a look. Let's see if you can guess what this means. お前たちは班長である俺の命令にだけ従っておけばいいんだ. So, お前たちは, as for you guys, 班長である俺, so me who is your squad captain, の命令, my orders, にだけ, only to, 従っておけばいいんだ. It would be good if you just order. So, 従っておけば means if you order, and then E, it would be good. So you should just follow my orders, me who is your squad captain. 初の実戦か緊張するぜ. Alright, we're almost there, and Zell's kind of thinking to himself, and he's like, 初の実戦か緊張するぜ. So hatsu means the very first. Again, an N1 piece of language, but we can see it's insanely common. Top 500 news, top 500 Wikipedia, 3,000 anime and drama. Again, proving the N1 is not something to be afraid of, it's very useful. Hatsu no jisen. Jisen is a real battle. So jitsu is like reality, real, and then sen we already know is for battle. So jisen is a real battle. So, my first real battle, huh? Hatsu no jisen ka kinchou suru ze. And kinchou suru means to just be really nervous. We've learned a lot of different language for nervous, but I would say this kinchou suru is probably the baseline, stage 1 of being nervous, right? Kinchou suru. Bibiru would be a little bit more like a slang way of saying, and then the ojiketsuku would be more of like a really high level way of kind of being like stricken with fear to kind of get cold feet type thing. This is just the normal form of being nervous. To be nervous in any situation is kinchou suru. It's a very useful piece of language right here. So, it's my first battle, huh? I'm pretty nervous. Bibitte chibiru na yo. Cypher. Man, this guy's the best. Bibitte chibiru na yo. So bibitte we know is bibiru, to be scared, to be very, very scared. And then we have this new word. Well, thank you, Cypher, for teaching us this interesting language. Chibiru. So chibiru means to wet oneself. So don't be so scared that you piss your pants. That type of thing, right? Bibitte chibiru na yo. Don't be so scared that you wet yourself. Huh? 誰に言ってるんだ? Dare ni iterunda. So, is like, huh? Dare ni to who iterunda? Who the hell are you talking to? ムカつく野郎だぜ. ムカつく野郎だぜ. So, ムカつく is to get really frustrated and angry at something. Yaro is a bastard, as we already see, so you're a really irritating guy. And then daze being very, very emphatic. So, guy, you're so irritating.
おしゃべりはその辺でおしまい。
And again, Quistis butts in just as Zell's getting a bit too emotional, and she says, "Oshaberi wa sono hen de oshimai." So, shaberu here is to talk. Oshaberi is just a little bit more of a polite way of referring to that talk. Oshaberi wa, as for the talk, sono hen de, so at around that point, oshimai. That's it. So, that's enough chit-chat.
間もなく上陸よ。それぞれ準備して。
Mamonaku jōriku yo, sorezore junbi shite. So, hey, look! Now we actually see Mamonaku with kanji. So that's really nice to see what we just mentioned previously, that sometimes we see it in kanji. There it is. Mamonaku, so very soon, jōriku yo. We're about to disembark. We're about to land at the place. Sorezore, this means each or respectively. So kind of each one of you. Sorezore junbi shite. Get ready. We're arriving soon. Prepare respectively. Ryokai. Ryokai. So Zell getting very hyped. Ryokai is Roger. So yes, sir. Sate Skoru, omae soto no yosu o mite koi. And then he continues and he talks to Squall, and here he says, Sate Skoru, omae soto no yosu o mite koi. So sate, well now, Skoru, Squall, omae, you, soto no yosu. So soto is outside, yosu is the state, right? How things are. So how things are outside, soto no yosu o mite koi. So miru is to look, te kuru is to come and do, and then te koi is the imperative form. So he's telling him to go and come back, but go in to check what it's like outside. And the te koi, mite koi, implies that to come back, right? To kind of check how it is outside and come back. 了解。当然だな。班長命令だからな。了解。Yes, sir. And then Cypher says, 当然だな。班長命令だからな。So, we also know all of this language as well. 当然だな。That's of course, that's a matter of fact, that's obvious, right? Of course you say 了解。班長命令. So, it is the squad leader's order だからな, after all. So, of course, it's your captain's order after all. あの船か。もう後戻りはできないぜ。ん？お前もうビビってるのか？おい、お前たちが最後だ。早く船に乗りなさい。俺をがっかりさせないでくれ。
ほら、駆け足。ヤーキスです。これが今回の B 班のメンバー。よろしくね、シュウ。
よろしくお願いします。よろしくお願いします。
サイファー何度目？
俺は試験が好きなんだ。
状況および任務の説明を始める。着席。本件のクライアントはドール広告議会。シード派遣の要請があったのは18時間前だ。ドール広告は72時間ほど前からガ軍の攻撃を受けている。開戦から49時間後、ドール広告は市街区域を放棄。現在は周辺の山間部に退避し、部隊の再編を急いでいる。以上が現在の状況だ。次に具体的な任務と作戦の説明に入る。報告によると、ガ軍は周辺山間部のドール軍排除作戦を展開中。我々はルプタンビーチから上陸。市街地に残るガ軍を排除しつつ、速やかに市街地を開放する。その後、我々シードは山間部から戻るであろうガ軍を市街地周辺部にて迎撃のため待機する。
俺たちは何をするんだ？
君たちシード候補生には 市街地に入り込んだガ軍を排除してもらう。
よし、責任重大だ。楽しくないな。要するに、シードの練習のおこぼれちょうだいだろう。
ああ、言うまでもないことだが。撤退の命令は絶対だ。これは忘れるな。間もなく上陸だ。下船直後から戦闘が予想される。準備を怠りなくだな。以上だ。何か質問のある者はキスティスに聞くように。
いいか、よく聞けよ。今回の作戦の目的は、ドールの町に潜入したガルベーディアのクソ野郎どもを片っ端からぶちのめすことだ。お前たちは班長である俺の命令にだけ従っておけばいいんだ。初の実戦か、緊張するぜ。ビビってちびるなよ。誰に言ってるんだ。かつく野郎だぜ。
おしゃべりはその辺でおしまい。間もなく上陸よ。それぞれ準備して。
了解。さてスコール、お前外の様子を見てこい。了解。当然だな、班長命令だからな。Okay, we've learned a ton of new language there in the third episode of the Final Fantasy VIII Vocab series. I hope you guys enjoyed this video breaking down absolutely everything. That was really fun to finally get back. We've learned so much language and we've actually started to make some progress in the game as well. The next episode we will be arriving at Dollet and we'll actually be going through the battle and making our way up to the tower. So if you guys want to see more of this Final Fantasy VIII series, then please let me know in the comment section below. Make sure to like, subscribe, and if you want to come join us on the Game Gengo Discord, where we have an amazing community of us learning Japanese, helping each other. You can talk directly with me and with everyone else in the community, as well as help each other out with Japanese. We have private live streams and things like that, and I'm actually going to be expanding a lot of what's going on the Discord and the Patreon very soon, because we are about to go full-time Game Gengo. So I've been really pushing myself this last year, working 2 full-time jobs, both trying to make Game Gengo as much as humanly possible, but I've also been working full-time teaching university classes in Japan, and so I've decided to try my best and try and make this thing here at Game Gengo a full-time thing. It's pretty giddy right now. I'm definitely not able to pay bills completely, but I'll give it my best this year. I'm going to really try and grow the channel as much as I can. So if you guys enjoy the content, then please make sure to like, subscribe, and if you really love the stuff, come say hi on the Game Gengo Discord, and I'd love to meet you all and say hi. So thanks so much guys for watching. There's about to be an absolutely enormous amount of content coming in the next year, so I hope you guys enjoy everything that's coming. Thanks so much guys for watching. As always, I really do appreciate all of your support. A huge love heart. Thank you so much guys. Merry Christmas. Have a wonderful year in 2023. If you guys have any games that you would like to see in the next Vocab series or Let's Play, make sure to leave a comment down below of any game that you guys want to see, and I may check out that game in the next video. See ya.